The Finest Story in the World by Rudyard Kipling. Narrated by Robin Nixon. Or ever the knightly years were gone, with the old world to the grave, I was a king in Babylon, and you were a Christian slave. W. E. Henley. His name was Jonny Muir. He was the only son of his mother, who was a widow, and he lived in the north of London, coming into the city every day to work in a bank. He was 20 years old and suffered from aspirations. I met him in a public billiard saloon where the marker called him by his given name, and he called the marker Bullseyes. Charlie explained, a little nervously, that he had only come to the place to look on, and since looking on at games of skill is not a cheap amusement for the young, I suggested that Charlie should go back to his mother. That was our first step toward better acquaintance. He would call on me sometimes in the evenings instead of running about London with his fellow clerks, and before long, speaking of himself as a young man must, he told me of his aspirations, which were all literary. He desired to make himself an undying name, chiefly through verse, though he was not above sending stories of love and death to the drop-a-penny-in-the-slop journals. It was my fate to sit still while Charlie read me poems of many hundred lines, and bulky fragments of plays that would surely shake the world. My reward was his unreserved confidence, and the self-revelations and troubles of a young man are almost as holy as those of a maiden. Charlie had never fallen in love, but was anxious to do so on the first opportunity. He believed in all things good and all things honourable, but at the same time was curiously careful to let me see that he knew his way about the world as befitted a bank clerk on 25 shillings a week. He rhymed dove with love and moon with June, and devoutly believed that they had never been so rhymed before. The long lame gaps in his plays he filled up with hasty words of apology and description, and swept on, seeing all that he intended to do so clearly that he esteemed it already done, and turned to me for applause. I fancy that his mother did not encourage his aspirations, and I know that his writing table at home was the edge of his washstand. This he told me almost at the outset of our acquaintance, when he was ravaging my bookshelves, and a little before I was implored to speak the truth as to his chances of writing something really great, you know. Maybe I encouraged him too much, for one night he called me, his eyes flaming with excitement, and he said breathlessly, "Do you mind? Can you let me stay here and write all this evening? I won't interrupt you. I won't really. There's no place for me to write in at my mother's." "What's the trouble?" I said, knowing well what the trouble was.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?